Hello, everyone. I'm Pam Norley, and today I'm joined by Ellie Hollander, CEO of Meals on Wheels America. So, Ellie, let's dive right in. Can you describe the challenges that seniors, including more than 7 million seniors that live in poverty in the U.S., are facing during the pandemic?
Well, Pam, as you probably know, the pandemic has disproportionately impacted older adults across the globe. And in the United States, as upsetting as it is, 80% of the deaths around COVID-19 have been because of folks 65 and over. They just are more at risk, underlying health conditions. So in essence, COVID-19 has rendered an entirely new wave of older adults now homebound. And hundreds of thousands of seniors are no longer able to dine in senior centers or cafes with their peers. They're fearful of going to grocery stores to shop for themselves and so forth. So many who previously had been active members of their community are now staying home, following CDC and health department guidelines, as they should. And as such, they're joining the ranks of those who are wondering where their next meal is coming from and whether or not they're going to see another person in a given day. And those ranks are enormous. As a network, Meals on Wheels programs are currently serving an average of 77% more meals and to 47% more seniors than they were before the pandemic hit. So suddenly this new pipeline of seniors is experiencing the hunger and social isolation that you referred to at the beginning, with no end in sight.
And so how has Meals on Wheels adapted to try to address these challenges, both of more people using their service and more people needing more of the service?
We've adapted in many, many ways, but I want to say right up front how proud I am of the Meals on Wheels programs across the country, because they really had to quickly adapt to this pandemic practically overnight. And to respond to these challenges, they changed their operations to more safely deliver meals to seniors at home, but trying to maintain social connectedness while respecting physical distance. So I think I mentioned a minute ago the incredible surge in need, a growth of 77% more meals and to 47% more seniors. Well, compounding the growth in need have been rising food and transportation costs, of course, limited availability of personal protective equipment, sanitation and cleaning supplies that we all need to make sure that we're safe. And at the same time, because our volunteers skew older, we also have seen a slip a bit in the number of people that are able to volunteer, understandably, because they don't want to put themselves at risk. But on the other hand, we've been so inspired by the generosity of a whole new pipeline of donors, of companies, individuals, foundations who have stepped up. And just between March and July, we were able at Meals on Wheels America to donate over $28 million back into local communities for frontlines, for Meals on Wheels providers. I just would want to add that, because right now the pandemic is no longer new news, philanthropy has slowed a bit and federal funding has just not kept pace with the quickly growing needs. So as a result, many Meals on Wheels programs are concerned about their financial sustainability. And at the same time, waiting lists for meals have continued to mount because there simply aren't enough resources to go around. Pam, before the pandemic ever hit, half of our Meals on Wheels programs told us that they already had existing waiting lists. So the reality is that, senior hunger and isolation have been growing for years. They've been hidden epidemics, simply exacerbated by the pandemic. And, we hope that philanthropy can step up as best they can, but frankly, less than 2% of all philanthropy has ever been focused on seniors and hunger. So we need some help to kind of meet that curve.
Well, that's exactly why we're talking with you today, Ellie. I think it's to try to make sure that people do understand how vulnerable this population is and the magnitude of the issue. Have you been able to structure ways where people actually can volunteer now that we've had a little bit more experience with COVID and managing the virus?
Yes, we probably have three different buckets of volunteering today. One is volunteers who have been able to stick with it and feel healthy enough and not threatened or feeling at risk, so they've been able to continue to deliver and or help prepare meals. The next bucket of folks are people that are rendered sheltering at home as they should be, that really want to continue to volunteer. So we've been able to match them with doing some telephone check-ins for seniors. even giving them notes to write. So some of the volunteers, stay in touch with their seniors, and they're like pen pals, so they're checking in on them. And I guess the third bucket is, for quite a while, because of the fact that we've had a slip in the number of volunteers that have been able to help us, a lot of our programs have ended up hiring paid drivers to kind of fill in the gap, because with this huge growth in need, we've had to expand the number of meal routes that we have, and we want to make sure that there's a sense of reliability, because those seniors that are dependent on Meals on Wheels, they're looking at the time and the clock, and they are waiting for that person to come knocking on their door. So it's a highlight for their day too.
So as you think about issues beyond the volunteers, how in other ways have you worked to kind of pivot or change the way that you're operating and supporting seniors?
COVID has sort of changed the fundamental ways that Meals on Wheels programs are operating. But one thing that's so important and is so unique to the Meals on Wheels model has been, not only a nutritious meal, but a friendly visit. So programs have tried to figure out, how do we retain that social connectedness while keeping everybody safe? So there are several ways that they've done that. Number one is they've adopted a no-touch delivery. The second thing is, I mentioned expanding telephone check-ins. We're doing that quite a bit, augmenting the meal deliveries with check-ins, because that can be done with the safety of your own home. Thirdly, we also, in some cases, are delivering groceries or other personal essentials. Many people don't maybe realize that Meals on Wheels isn't just about delivering in the home. Most of our programs also run senior centers, senior cafes, group dining centers. So when the pandemic shut those down, those were for seniors who were more mobile, who were able to get to a center and have a meal with a peer, to go through, maybe have educational games, exercise. So overnight, they had to be converted, in a sense, to these grab and go drive-through sites where seniors could actually go pick up bulk meals for maybe the whole week, which they hadn't done before.
So if our donors had to think about 3 things people can do right now to help seniors during this pandemic, what might they be?
The normal 3 that I would be telling you, if it was pre-pandemic, would be give, advocate, volunteer. Because of the pandemic, I'm going to modify my 3rd volunteer by just saying, check in on a loved one, check in on an elderly neighbor, check in on somebody that is probably hidden and fearful and alone. That's a way of volunteering in your own right, but that's something that we all can do. Whatever you're doing, don't stop now. Don't stop caring, don't stop giving, don't stop volunteering, don't stop checking in on somebody. The philosophy that I believe is, we need to take a moment in time and turn it into a defining moment. And we have seen humanity at its best, but let's just keep going what we're doing, because we're nowhere near the end of this trail.
That is excellent advice for all of our donors out there. And thank you so much for sharing your time. But more importantly, thank you to you and your team for what you do to help seniors address food insecurity and vulnerability. Thank you, Ellie.
Thank you, Pam.